What are you going to do about the bullying that she was experiencing?
Natalie,
why won't you set up an independent investigation to look into these claims?
it doesn't make any sense to me. What are you afraid of?
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And there's no doubt the big political story of the last 2 weeks has been allegations of bullying in the Labor Party and claims that colleagues' treatment of Senator Kimberley Kitching contributed to her death. And no one's been pushing harder than the folks at News Corp, as you can see from these front pages.
Bullied, broken and wrecked by Labor. Her heart gave out.
True disbeliever.
Gilt-edged award.
Albo's desperate bid to honour bullied MP.
And the commentators on News Corp's Sky After Dark have been having a field day too.
Was Labor Senator Kimberley Kitching hounded to her death?
These accusations are so damaging.
Is Labor the party of justice? Or is it the party that tramples over anyone for power?
But last week came a surprising halt in hostilities at News Corp's 2 big city tabloids, which donated their front pages to a sympathetic interview with the alternative Prime Minister. The Telegraph headlining its story,
I am not woke.
and the Herald Sun repeating the message for Melbourne readers.
Woke up call.
Albanese vows to shun loony left.
In a wide-ranging interview, which was also run in the Courier-Mail and Adelaide's Advertiser, Albo declared himself a centrist who would govern for mainstream Australia. And to prove he was safe for readers, reporter Joe Hildebrand put the opposition leader to the woke test and got all the right answers.
Can men have babies?
No.
Captain Cook, hero or zero?
World changer.
Does Australia need to spend more or less on defence?
More.
Negative gearing, keep or ditch?
Keep.
And that night on Sky, Joe was telling Paul Murray how significant it was.
I think it's something that Albo needed to say, and I think it is good that he said it.
So, if it was so good for Albo, how come those 2 News Corp tabloids both had it on the front page? Given that in the last few election campaigns they did this to Bill Shorten and this to Kevin Rudd. Brilliant marketing by Albo, a new commitment to balance by the Telly and the Hun. One possible answer came in The Australian on Friday, which crunched Newspoll data to show Labor maintaining a 10-point lead over the coalition in the two-party preferred, and revealed
Voters in the key demographics that helped Scott Morrison win the last election have deserted the coalition over the past 3 months, with sharp falls in support among working families.
And as political editor Simon Benson then went on to say,
if Morrison can't win back the aspirationals, it's hard to see how he can win the election. The only groups in which Morrison leads is retirees, Christians and Queenslanders.
It's well known that News Corp does not like to back losers. So, with the polls still pointing to an ALP victory, could it be that the tabloids have decided to be nice to Mr Albanese because they think he will win? I guess we'll see when the campaign proper gets underway. But now to Ukraine and the well-known adage that truth is the first casualty of war. Except truth may have triumphed for once, thanks to the work of Mstislav Chernov and Yevgeny Malolietka, 2 brave Ukrainian journalists from Associated Press, who have documented the brutal Russian bombardment of Mariupol, where 100,000 people are now trapped with no food, no power and no link to the outside world. Infamously, Mariupol was also the scene of the terrible bombing of a maternity hospital on March the 9th, and it was the AP team that captured haunting photos and video of bloodied pregnant women being helped out of hospital, including this badly injured pregnant woman being stretchered by rescuers across the rubble. In a war of daily horrors, those images did more than touch hearts. They provided compelling evidence of war crimes, and the Russians were desperate to deny what they had done. The day after the attack, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told the media dismissively,
it's not the first time we see pathetic outcries concerning the so-called atrocities perpetrated by the Russian military.
Lavrov insisted the hospital was empty, except for soldiers from the Azov battalion. So how to explain those photos of the victims? The Russian embassy in London had the answer to that. They were fake, and the women in the pictures were merely actors. In fact, said the Russians in a second tweet, there was one actor, whom it misnamed, playing 2 parts.
It's the indeed pregnant beauty blogger Mariana Podgorskaya. She actually played roles of both pregnant women on the photos.
After Twitter took those tweets down, Russia's ambassador to the UN repeated the claim to the Security Council. And the Russian ambassador to the Netherlands then took up the story, telling Dutch television,
World media published sinister photo of a maternity ward in Mariupol with pregnant women, lots of casualties. Actually, we are faced with huge disinformation effort.
You're saying it's not true?
It's not true. Actually, this is only one woman. She is featured here, rushing down the stairwell. Here she changed clothes and she is being brought on the stretcher.
Russian state TV also spread those ridiculous claims that the pregnant women were fake and the hospital was empty, apart from soldiers. And so did a bunch of Twitter accounts, including some claiming to be on the American far right.
It's all fake.
And over in the US, the Trump fans at One American News were certainly buying the line.
There are numerous reports that the hospital was actually abandoned, that there were no patients inside. That's because, and this is according to locals and even hospital staff, the hospital was actually cleared out weeks ago and was being used as a base of operations for the Ukrainian military.
But amazingly, some people in Australia were also convinced or confused. And how do we know? Because people asked me if the women were fake. It's a sad world when you need to debunk crazy conspiracies like this, but let's do it. The AP team who witnessed the carnage say they saw no soldiers in the hospital, only doctors, nurses, women and kids. And yes, they were real. But in an attempt to convince the doubters, the team tracked down Timur Maran, the surgeon in Mariupol who treated the woman on the stretcher, who reported her pelvis was crushed, her baby was dead, and she died soon after. The AP team also located the beauty blogger with her new baby, who told them,
Это произошло 9 числа в 3-й больнице в Мариуполь. Мы лежали в палатах, у нас повылетали стекла.
By this stage, the AP team were the last international journalists in Mariupol, finding it harder and harder to get their story out.
The only link we had to the outside world was through a satellite phone, and the only spot where that phone worked was out in the open, right next to a shell crater.
And they were still stuck in the city last week as the Russians closed in. Then, as Chernov recounted,
suddenly at dawn, a dozen soldiers burst in. Where are the journalists, for fuck's sake? I looked at their armbands, blue for Ukraine, and tried to calculate the odds that they were Russians in disguise. I stepped forward to identify myself. We're here to get you out, they said.
A Ukrainian officer then explained why they had to flee. Russian troops had orders to get them, to bolster their fake news claims.
If they catch you, they will get you on camera and they will make you say that everything you filmed is a lie, he said. All your efforts and everything you have done in Mariupol will be in vain.
The AP team did then escape and were able to tell their story. So, does anyone still believe the Russian version? No doubt some do. That's how powerful fake news is. And of course, Russia is still maintaining the lie. But now, to lighter matters, and happy birthday wishes from the Chocoholics at 7 News.
A real favourite is celebrating a major milestone, 100 years of Cadbury chocolate. What started in a tiny Tasmanian factory has become an Aussie giant.
Yes, many happy returns from 7 to a homegrown favourite, owned by a multi-billion-dollar foreign multinational. And they were celebrating too on 9, but much more lavishly.
Happy birthday, Cadbury, from Channel 9. Congratulations on 100 years of shared moments.
Unlike at 7, that heartfelt shout-out was obviously paid for, but it was also merging seamlessly into 9's primetime bulletins.
9 News brought to you by Cadbury, celebrating 100 years of shared moments.
And parking itself right in the middle of today at breakfast.
We're waking up here at the Cadbury factory at Claremont in Tasmania. Have a go at this joint. I cannot wait to get behind that fence this morning.
And like a kid in a, well, chocolate factory, today's weatherman Tim Davis got the grand tour in live cross after live cross after live cross, with enthusiastic endorsements from Carl and Ali at Bonbon Central.
It's wonderful to get an insight into a great company, I reckon, where everything that is made for you at home in the shops is made with love.
Love, love, love. You've seen it all before, of course. Companies splash the cash on brekkie infomercials and get endless gushing across hours of live TV, with barely an acknowledgement that a commercial deal is in place. But what makes this one different is how invested some of Nine's presenters are in the product. They're even popping up in Cadbury's own ads.
From a child of the 80s, a 90s kid.
And happy 100 years, Cadbury.
There we have Nine entertainment gurus Brooke Boney and Richard Wilkins, with footy commentator Alana Ferguson crossing the editorial advertising Rubicon like never before. And not just on the telly. All three were happy to pollute their personal social media feeds with love for the dark stuff. As Boney, a former NITV and ABC journalist, enthused to her 97,000 followers.
Growing up, one of my favourite memories was Easter morning, when the Easter Bunny would drop off a carton of colourful Cadbury eggs.
Note the ad and paid partnership tags indicating that Nine, and presumably Brooke as well, are cashing in. And not just from Cadbury. Late last year, Brooke had nothing but good things to say about one skincare line as part of her paid partnership with the company. Now, you might have thought that anyone who calls themselves a journalist, who presents on news programmes, would not dream of taking cash for comment. But that, it seems, is old-school philosophy at the network, where the commercial creep is on. And Brooke is hardly alone. Belinda Russell certainly calls herself a journalist as a presenter for 9 News and Today Extra. But she was also tucking into Cadbury a fortnight ago. And back in September, she and her family were spruiking rival chop shop Daryl Lee. And among the other companies she's happy to plug are supermarket Coles, burger joint Grilled, and even Dettol's liquid soap. Her Today Extra co-host and Carl Stefanovic seat filler David Campbell also gets his family on the promotional bandwagon with posts for Officeworks, Disney Plus, and 2 paid reviews for his favourite coffee maker Nespresso. Shameless, isn't it? And not from social media influencers, but news presenters who ask the audience to trust them every day. And some of Seven's high-profile journalists are also in on the trick. Seven's Melbourne weekend reader Rebecca Madden has plugged chemists, among others. Morning show presenter Kylie Gillis regularly shows off her shiny new wheels thanks to her friends at Parramatta BMW, whereas morning TV pal Edwina Bartholomew prefers a Nissan. So, what do you have to pay to get those media endorsements? Well, we don't know, because Cadbury and Nine refused to tell us what the deal is worth. And 9, 7 and their stars all declined to answer our questions, with the networks merely noting that all ads are disclosed. So, what do we think? Well, we reckon it's unprofessional, grubby and greedy, and viewers deserve better. And finally, to the craziest story of the week, and the flimsiest. Here is Studio 10 with an extraordinary tale.
According to reports in the Daily Mail, students from Brisbane Girls Grammar School are walking on all fours, cutting holes in their uniforms for tails, and licking the backs of their hands like cats.
Yes, the kids are turning into cats and identifying as furries. And if you read it in the Daily Mail, it must be true. But of course, it's also almost certainly lifted from somewhere else. And sure enough, the original yarn was in the Courier-Mail some 10 days ago.
Elite Brisbane school students think they're animals in new woke trend.
Now, strangely enough, that was an opinion column, not a news story. So perhaps they recognised it was a bit thin on facts. But that didn't stop Associate Editor Kylie Lang and her headline writers stating confidently,
A handful of students at an elite Brisbane girls' school have begun identifying as animals, walking on all fours and cutting holes in their uniform for a tail.
And adding,
This is not about students playing dress-ups or using fun face filters on social media, but about genuinely believing they are animals.
So, what was her evidence for this outlandish claim? Not much, to put it mildly. According to Lang, she had several unrelated sources, all anonymous, saying girls were walking on all fours and licked their hands like paws. Among them was a school insider, speculating that children were not being disciplined because the school seemed too worried about not offending anyone, and one woman told her that everyone was talking about kids identifying as cats and foxes at a recent Brisbane dinner party. Wow. 3 unnamed sources with second or third-hand knowledge and no photos, no videos or first-hand testimony to back up the claims. And no confirmation from the school, because if you scroll down to paragraph 12 of the story, the Courier-Mail admitted
the school has not been made aware of any students who identify as furries.
So is this story based on solid fact? Clearly not. And on TikTok, some students at Brisbane Grammar have ridiculed the claims.
Has anyone actually seen a furry at Grammar, though? No way this is real.
But the Courier-Mail nevertheless weaponised the story for a new assault in the culture wars, telling readers,
in this time of gender fluidity and woke sensibility, psychologists say it is a troubling and fraught phenomenon.
And Sky's outsiders duly followed them over the top, blaming Brisbane Grammar's allegedly woke culture for letting it happen.
One girl apparently cut a hole in her skirt to make room for an imaginary tail, however didn't get a uniform infraction for it when ordinarily she possibly would, because that's how she identifies, so that's that.
Apparently, indeed. So, where does this nonsense come from? Well, to show it wasn't just Brisbane, the Courier-Mail republished with this story a US video from January in which a mother from Michigan slammed schools there for allowing students to identify as cats.
There are kids that identify as a furry, a cat or a dog, whatever. And so yesterday I heard that at least one of our schools in our town has in one of the unisex bathrooms, a litter box for the kids that identify as cats. And I am really disturbed by that.
But what the Courier-Mail failed to tell readers is that the viral video has been thoroughly debunked after the school's superintendent said there is, quote, no truth whatsoever to the claim and there have never been litter boxes in the school district. And what about those cat-identifying students in Brisbane? Well, like the Courier-Mail, we have been unable to find any. But if you see any around, please let us know. And that's all from us for tonight. There's more on our website where you can stream or download the programme. And don't forget, Media Bites every Thursday. But for now, until next week, goodbye.